Good afternoon. It's Thursday, February 5th. My name is Josh Evans, Vice President of Government Relations for IARF, and we're pleased to bring you the first installment of IARF Weekend Session, which is going to be a low-tech, off-the-cuff, likely recorded in a number of different places over the next several weeks, update on the comings and goings at the State House, particularly where those intersect with our public policy priorities for 2015. We're going to start this week's installment with bill count. Currently, there have been 2,326 bills filed, 258 resolutions, and 32 joint resolutions. I'd say about 75% of which have been reviewed by Cyrus and the rest of the policy staff for content. So we're probably tracking between 65 and 70 of those bills, and we expect that list to grow substantially in the next couple of weeks as the introduction deadline approaches. Certainly the most talked about happening at the State House this week was Governor Rauner's first State of the State address as Governor of Illinois. Those of you that were following some of the presentations he'd been given at some local communities as well as the reports on those, were not surprised to note that the governor focused much of his speech on where Illinois has gone and where he would like to take it, particularly with respect to economics, job growth, and education. And as a matter of fact, just before the governor delivered his speech at noon on Wednesday, he passed out this document to all 177 members of the General Assembly, which is noted as, you can see, got it, the Illinois Turnaround, which is the governor's policy agenda for his first year, if not for his term, to, you guessed it, turn Illinois around. Now, there are dozens of dot points on here focused under the topics of economic growth and jobs package, student and career success package, and taxpayer empowerment and government reform package. As noted by our President and CEO Janet Stover's press statement on the governor's State of the State address, he did in this speech present a vision, or his vision rather, for community-based services and supports, which we're taking as an opportunity to continue to engage his staff in dialogue on the priorities and the issues that we've identified with the association. So with the hopes when February 18th comes around, the governor is in a position to potentially present his vision for community-based services and supports, certainly through the window of how his administration would choose to finance them for the fiscal 2016 budget. Moving on, there were a couple of other important issues that happened immediately this first week of session, the most important of which I would say to our members is the minimum wage. This morning, the Senate, by a vote, I believe, of 35-18-1, advanced Senate Bill 11 out of that chamber to the House, which would increase the state minimum wage to $11 an hour by July 1st, 2019. We now have that particular piece of legislation at the House. We have what Governor Rauner introduced yesterday, which is to take the state minimum wage to $10 an hour, a quarter a year over the next 7 years. And we also have an effect in the City of Chicago ordinance going to $13 an hour by July 1st, 2019, which essentially means there are two minimum wage proposals on the table in the General Assembly and one that is in effect in the city, all of which our service providers are going to have to figure out how to finance moving forward, which brings a lot of the discussions we're having at the State House right now to the forefront. We're also very pleased to note a champion of community services, Senator Maddie Hunter, advanced legislation out of the Senate Human Services Committee this week, Senate Bill 12, which basically takes a look at any statewide minimum wage proposals should they go into law and would basically say departments of children and family services, departments of human services, departments of aging, etc. If there is an increase in the statewide minimum wage, you need to take a look at the rates you're paying your service providers, upwardly adjust them accordingly, and fully fund them to make sure that service providers aren't hit with an unfunded mandate that a minimum wage might present, such as it did back in 2006 when the minimum wage was increased from 2006 through 2010. Very thankful to you, Senator Hunter, for your efforts there. This association looks forward, and our members, to working with you on this particular iteration of the bill moving forward with the hopes that we can reach some common ground on some legislation this spring. Moving on, we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about the current budget, the state fiscal year 15 budget. Much is being reported in the news right now on the shortfall on the Child Care Assistance Fund, which I believe is running around $300 million for fiscal year 15. No doubt this is an important issue for families across the state of Illinois, and it's equally important to the governor as well as members of the General Assembly as they have some discussions about trying to solve that shortfall. We have an obligation, and we continue to do so, though, to raise those shortfalls of concern to the provision of community-based services and supports and the thousands of individuals with disabilities and mental illnesses that rely on them. And that is a shortfall in the community lines for developmental disabilities, mental health, and early intervention. Currently, we're seeing about a $70 million shortfall in the FY15 budget for DD services, about $40 million for community mental health, and $12.5 million for early intervention services. We're pleased to note that many of our members have been making calls to the legislature this week, urging them to solve this situation. In addition, the association has advanced a fact sheet to members of the General Assembly and key staff, and we continue to message with the General Assembly and the Governor's office that while you're having conversations about trying to resolve the child care assistance issue, it is no less important to ensure that you're keeping funding for community-based services in the current fiscal year as a whole, as we head towards what we all know is going to be a difficult discussion on the fiscal 2016 budget. Which brings us to the final part of our segment. General Assembly is going to be out of town next week, going to be back in the district. Perfect time to hit them up to talk about our issues. They'll be coming back the week of February 16th to continue work down in Springfield. And that will be also another important week during this week's session, as that Wednesday, February 18th, Governor Rauner will deliver his first budget request, the state fiscal year 16 budget request, to the General Assembly. Certainly lots of discussion about what that might look like given what he presented as State of the State, and a great deal of concern about what might be in that budget given the revenue shortfalls or the reduced revenues we're going to see for fiscal year 2016 with the phase down of the personal and corporate income tax. As we get additional details heading into the 18th, or as we come across them with respect to the Governor's budget request, we certainly hope to communicate those with members. In the meantime, we would continue to ask all of you, your staff, the individuals and families you serve in your networks back in your communities, keep making calls to your legislators. We can't be in a situation this year where individuals are facing disruptions in services, providers are facing rate cuts or delayed in payments. We've walked that path before. We can't continue to walk that path moving forward if we're going to have a competitive and compassionate Illinois. So thanks for suffering through this first particular segment of IARF Weekend Review. I hope you all appreciate the Cardinals memorabilia back there. And I guess on a final note, in addition to seeing us the week after next, hey you Northsiders, keep winning the off season. Looking forward to talking to all of you soon. Bye.